What's going on, guys? Scar coming at you with another Magic the Gathering video. Yes, I am back on camera after taking like a couple day hiatus from recording myself onto camera. Today I want to do something a little bit different. I want to talk about drafting in Magic the Gathering Arena, its perks, its benefits, why is it good as a Magic player to probably do Arena. This is kind of going to be targeted to the basics of maybe a newer player, or maybe someone who just doesn't really mess around with draft, just because it is one of those game modes that outside of just playing typical basic pre-constructed decks, that you actually have to pay some sort of entry fee in order to kind of participate in Magic the Gathering Arena. There are multiple options in draft for Magic the Gathering Arena, and I just want to kind of go over each one, kind of give you guys the basics of each, kind of like the idea of why doing drafting is actually good for you as a player, especially when it comes to deck building and kind of understanding various things, and why even for new players it's actually something you probably should attempt to do, just because it does help you overall with like crafting your deck and putting it together. But guys, if you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to know when I post more videos, hit the subscribe button. But let's dive into all the different drafts and talk about why each one is better for certain types of players. All right, so coming into the menu, if you haven't really messed around with anything, because typically if you just play regular matches of constructed Magic, you're probably looking at a menu that's more so like this. So you're kind of pushed down. You're probably either on the play or the standard ranked, or one of those modes down here at the bottom, just trying to get, you know, your games in of just regular constructed Magic. So typically what you would do is, if you haven't already, you just need to kind of scroll yourself up to the top here, allow yourself to kind of see all of the matches, that you can participate in. If you haven't really familiarized yourself with this, up top where it says events, there's various events, some of them limited, some of them are always acting, and this is kind of where you will dive into and kind of start playing these other types of game modes that have different things where you kind of don't really bring your own pre-constructed event, like draft and things like that. So to start off, we had the Premier Draft Core, which is actually where I started the video. This is like the newer one where you actually do draft with other actual real players. So like if in like typical Magic, if you ever played physical Magic and you ever done drafting, this is where you sit with your little pod of 8 players total, including yourself, and you pretty much now will crack open a single pack, pass it around, and kind of select cards from each pack until you pretty much open through all 3 packs. So hopefully combine yourself a pile of cards that you can put together to make a deck. So in that essence, they introduced Magic, I think back in maybe May, I think it was what it was, or late April, is when they introduced playing draft with actual real players. Before that, you used to just play with AI, and the AI would just pass the packs around, just simulating that they would pass you cards, and they take cards from your pack and rotate that around to build yourself your draft deck. But now we do it with real players. So the basics of doing a Premier Draft here is that you play with real players, so people will make real choices, compared to doing against AI, where they simulate and try to make the best choices via that. So the one thing that you want to do is, especially if you're new, this actually helps you build up your collection, because yes, it may be a large investment to do any draft, but the thing is, when you get these cards, they go into your collection. So if you want to, even if you don't have a lot of rares, you can actually go into these and try to pick out rare drafts, or just very, very good cards that are good for collection, especially when you're low on wild cards. It's one way to do that. Another way is it helps you understand kind of like the current set. So typically you're only drafting out of one set. You're not really drafting out of a spread of sets. So like, for example, right now, because Core 2021 just came out, you'd be just drafting out of Core 2021. So this is actually a perfect time as a new player to probably jump right into drafting, because the core sets are typically the more basic sets when it comes to things and mechanics in the set. Typically it's like the very standard mechanics, and it's just a good way to start building a collection as being a new player. The one thing with Premier Drafts, they are a little bit on the pricier side, so you do either need to save up 1,500 gems and or 10,000 coins, or if you've been having an account for a while, I know at some point they kind of give out free tokens, or you buy the Mastery Pass, you also get free tokens. So for example, I have these tokens up here. I have 6 player draft tokens and 1 sealed entry. I just never really play these types of game modes, so I typically just kind of been stacking onto them. But at some point I'm going to start cracking into these. I don't know if I'm going to make videos on them or just kind of play them just to kind of get, you know, just to play through them. But each one of these events will actually have certain payouts. So for example, this one, for example, it just works like any other event. If you've ever experienced any other event, you play matches, you do the draft, and you play matches until you lose 3 times. So every time you win, you'll kind of go up this little chart here at the bottom, and as you go higher and higher, the rewards get higher and higher. So like at the beginning, if you don't win any games and you just do the draft and you kind of want to play some games with your drafted deck, you still will walk away with at least another additional pack plus 50 gems. Which the gems are like the real money currency, so that you either pay real money or you collect gems over time. And then as you kind of go further, if you win a game, you'll get 100 or 50 more gems and still the one pack. 2 to 3 wins, you'll still get 2 packs, but now that you see the gems jump up even more, 250 to 1,000, which is pretty crazy. So if you get to 3 wins, which is about 50%, you will walk away with almost 1,000 gems. Which, if you ever look at the store, 1,000 gems, I think you can buy at least 3 packs, maybe an additional single pack. But you can definitely get 3 packs out of the 1,000 gems, or save it for another draft. And you also get 2 packs. So in essence, you'll actually almost make out by doing this with this, depending on the rares and stuff that you get. And then you move up to 4 wins, and then you get 3 packs and 1,400 gems, almost enough for another entry into this, as well as 3 additional packs. So you get a total of 6 packs, 1,400 gems, all the way up to a maximum of 2,200 gems and 6 packs, which is almost like 2 more drafts, and then another entry plus 700 gems that you kind of started on. I'm not saying like your first couple drafts you're definitely gonna get to the 7 wins, but I mean, it's something to strive for. You kind of want to play around with synergies when it comes to drafting, trying to figure out what cards you want to put together. Like I said, with it being a core set, a lot of the synergies are pretty straightforward. It's nothing like too tricky. A lot of times just getting very, very powerful cards is usually good enough to get you in for victories, or even finding like little small combos and synergies in the set are definitely good. But that's enough about the Premier Draft. Let's kind of bounce to the other ones, kind of give you a rundown of each of those, because there's different ones depending on what kind of player you want to be. So if we go back to this menu, we go to Quick Draft. So Quick Draft is a little bit different. Quick Draft is you actually you do this against AI bots, no wait in, no pick timers. So pretty much you can spend as much time as you want to go through this. But the difference is, because you're playing against AI to draft the packs, the payouts are a little bit different. So you don't actually have to spend as much to get in here. It's 750 gems or 5,000 gold. So 5,000 gold is actually a little bit more reasonable if you're a free-to-play player. Just on the basis of 5,000 gold, you probably get that in about a week, give or take, depending on how often you play per day. If you get your weekly cap of experience in gold, if you get your daily experience in gold, and if you keep on doing your daily quests. And if you get lucky and get a couple 750 quests, you can definitely, in a week, could probably get enough for an entry once a week into Quick Draft. But for this, the payout, like I said, is a little bit different. So the payout is either 50 gems or 1 pack. It looks like the maximum packs you can get is only 2, so that's the one thing. You don't get as many packs for playing against drafting against AI with AI, but you still get pretty decent amount of gems. I mean, you get 950 gems and you get 2 packs. So I mean, you'll definitely get 200 gems more than the cost of the entry. You'll get a total of 5 packs. So as you can see, the payout is a little bit less, but if you can get up to 7 wins, it's pretty good. But yeah, it's a little bit different. It is also best of 1. Both things I've done have been a best of 1. There's also a traditional one that we're getting into, and if you want, that's something that's more traditional to actual Magic, is a traditional style of gameplay, which is the best of 3. This one here, as you can see, is just as much as the Premier one, which is 3 packs. It does cost 1,500 or 10,000. You can get up to 6 victories. But the difference also here that I didn't mention is that, unlike the other 2, this one is you play 3 matches regardless of record. So you're only playing 3 matches, which is about 9 matches if you get to 3 games for each one of your rounds. 9 matches of Magic. The difference is that you can kind of use like your extra cards and sideboard cards depending on how your opponent is. But the payouts, like I said, is a little different. So if 0 wins or 1 win, you only get a single pack, no gems. If you get to 2 wins, you get 1,000 gems, so you make back almost all your entry if you pay gems. And then you get 4 packs, which then is 7 packs, which is definitely a really, really big payout. But it is a little bit tougher, like I said, because this is traditional. Like, you can do sideboard, so it's not a best of 1. So you may want to do a deck that's probably a little bit on like a more flexible side. And then there's 6 packs or 3,000 gems. This is ridiculous. That's 2 entries right there in 6 packs. But like I said, you don't really have any. You have to go perfect in order to get that, so it's a little bit rougher to get to that payout. I would say 1 to 2 wins is probably more than likely. And this is like you want to do a more traditional style of Magic Draft. This is definitely the style that you probably want to play, just so you kind of practice if you haven't been able to go to this local game store or something like that to do actual physical drafts. This is definitely a good way to kind of keep that traditional style of Magic gameplay going. Alright, so like for example, we're kind of diving here into a little bit of a draft, and we're kind of like looking to kind of see what's going on here. The deck, like what's gonna happen is that we're playing against actual people. We're gonna try to figure out our color. I would say shrines are probably not a way to go. Part of me wants to kind of go with that. Um, all right, so I went through a draft. I'm gonna probably do like some B-roll or something of it. All right, so I went through the draft and I kind of picked out some cards to kind of put together a deck. Overall, we did fairly okay. At some point, I did start rare drafting. As you can see, there's a few rares in here that probably don't make sense for the colors. I mean, we picked up this because Ninther was really good in that pack. I think there's a few rares in here. But I think overall, the deck choice I'm probably going to go with is probably going to be some sort of green and blue version of the deck. Just because some of the cards we got are pretty strong in the sense that we can definitely take advantage of certain things. It's just a matter of trying to figure out what cards we want. I don't really need that unless we're playing against something that is flying. Don't really want something like that. That's okay. That's probably very situational, so we'll get rid of those. We could have this. So that's not bad. Don't need that artifact. We have some mana producers. Don't need the Azuna just because we are kind of playing like a rampy style deck, but we don't definitely need all of that ramp. We do have a lot of big drops, but I don't think they're too strong. Maybe just get rid of one of those. So I mean, this would be kind of like what my draft deck would be. So what had happened is because I've already owned some of these rares, because I already own copies of them, technically when this draft is over, all these rares, if I already own a full set of them, will just be converted into gems. So at the end of it, you'll kind of see in the B-roll that I got gems in replacement of the rares that I'm not going to take with me out of this draft. But now that we're done with the deck, we can kind of like now start playing through our games and see how well we do. But yeah, guys, I mean, overall, I don't want to sit here and play a whole bunch of games. Maybe in the future I'll do a video on like just doing a draft and kind of go over like my choices of cards. But for now, we're just gonna, I just wanted to give you guys like an idea of like what to do, and kind of just go over like what I did. So I picked like up some frantic inventories just for the draw effect. I think there's certain things you want to look out for. Again, hand advantage in any sort of way is definitely good in draft. So like getting more cards than your opponent is always good. Drawing deeper into your deck is always good, unless your opponent's playing a mill deck, which with the Fairy's Tutelage is a possibility. But this is definitely good, which actually works well with Jarrell. I'm not saying like we're definitely going to have this mechanic happen all the time, but whenever we draw our second card with this, as if you don't already know, you get a 2/2 green cat token, so things that produce more creatures is definitely very strong. I played this Druid because whenever we cast any other spell other than a green spell, it gets +1/+1, so it's a pretty solid card because it just keeps on getting bigger whenever we play a spell that's not green. This is just okay because it gets to draw a card and also give whatever creature we want +1/+0 and trample. Snare Spinner just because It can block creatures with flying, and it actually gets stronger whenever it blocks a creature with flying. Titanic Growth is maybe a surprise, a little bit of extra damage. Maybe we have it on a creature that has trample, get through that extra damage. Paladin Mirror, just because it's a solid 3-drop that produces 2 mana, so 3 cost, 2/2 with mana producer. The one thing that you also notice in like a limited style of Magic is certain cards are actually surprisingly much better than you would think in standard. Like you wouldn't see certain cards in more of a standard match just because the cards that you have access to are just that much stronger. But Land of War Visionary is actually a very strong card here just because it's a mana producer, as well as we get a card when it enters the battlefield. Invigorating Surge, I think, is a cool little card that I wanted to mess around with just because it is a card that puts a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and then double the number of +1/+1 counters on that creature. So if we get a creature that gets a lot of +1/+1 counters, we will actually probably get a pretty decent sized creature. You just saw me probably take a card there. I'm just going to try to look for something here and just kind of add it. I guess we'll add another one of these Shipwreck Dowsers in here. But I had a card in here that just didn't really work with the deck. So I removed it just because I didn't really like it too much. Then I went with Tide Skimmer because it's actually another pretty solid card because it's a 4 mana 2/3 flyer. And then whenever I attack with 2 or more flyer creatures or flyer, including itself, I get to draw a card. Another Ornate Dilophosaur because it has Death Touch, and whenever it attacks, if I control a creature with 4 or greater, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn, so it gets stronger. It's just a 1-of, but I think that ability is pretty good just because we do play a pretty decent sized back end of the deck. We got Shipwreck Dowser, which is pretty good because it's prowess, and whenever it enters the battlefield, we get to return target sorcery card from our graveyard to our hand. I mean, we don't play too many sorceries, quite honest. But I mean, it's still pretty good because it has prowess. Definitely, or instant or sorcery. I guess I missed the instant part. So we can definitely get like Frantic Inventory or even Invigorating Surge or something like that, just to kind of pump it up even more. Gnarled Sage is a pretty decent card. It's a 5 cost for 4 with reach. As long as I've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, it gets +0/+2 and has Vigilance. So Vigilance is an ability to give something Vigilance is very good. Which could combo with this. We could definitely get back to like a Frantic Inventory, draw additional card, give it Vigilance and +2/+0 and swing in. Warden of the Woods has Vigilance. It's a 5/7 for 6, and whenever it becomes target of spell or ability opponent controls, we get to draw 2 cards. So if our opponent decides to like try to remove it with a spot removal, we get to get some cards out of it if they do it that way. But it's also a solid 5/7, and they'd have to really like either block into it and or just have a complete removal to really get rid of it. So definitely a good card. And then we also played Spined Megalodon. It's a 5/7 as well. It has hexproof, and whenever it attacks, we get to scry, so we get to kind of fix the top of our deck. But like cards like this kind of help us out. And then we just played a basic of 8 land, 8 blue, 8 green, just because we're more on the green side, but a lot of our blue stuff is double blue, so that's kind of where we're playing a little bit heavier into blue. We have also 1 Radiant Fountain to gain some life. But in all, I would actually probably get rid of the Radiant Fountain and probably just bump up. And bump up and just play an additional green mana source. But guys, that is the draft. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. I kind of want to try my best to help you guys out. But I think the other thing that I just want to reiterate before we kind of end the video today is I think this is a good way to just get yourself knowledge with like what's in a set. Just because sometimes some people just kind of see what the best deck is and kind of just play that and don't really get a knowledge of what there's also in the game of Magic. I think this is a good way to kind of put together things in more of a limited fashion, to kind of mess around with things that you normally wouldn't play, and play against other people who have also, are playing other limited cards. So it's a little bit more an even matchup, especially if you're new to Magic, don't have a lot of wild cards to spend to get like the best of the best decks. This kind of puts you more in an even playing field just because you'll be playing against people who are also putting decks together of drafted cards. I mean, the one thing is some people may know the knowledge a little bit more of like what cards do, but it's just another fun little thing you can do outside of just playing normal best of 1s or best of 3s, depending on what you prefer. But guys, if you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to post more videos, hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you in the next video.